Have you ever had this moment where someone smiles at you and says, "So, tell me about yourself," and suddenly your mind goes completely blank? Not because you don't have a life, not because you don't know who you are, but because you're trying to say it in English. You know what you want to say in your own language, you can feel it clearly, but in English, the words feel far away. Your heart beats a little faster. You start thinking about grammar, about vocabulary, about whether your sentence sounds strange. And the longer you think, the more silent you become. If that has ever happened to you, I want you to know something very important right now. You are not bad at English. You are not slow, and you are definitely not alone.
Yes, and this situation happens everywhere. In a classroom, in a job interview, at a party, when you meet a new neighbor, or even when someone online asks you a simple question like, "What do you do?" For many English learners, talking about yourself feels much harder than it should. And the funny thing is, you already know yourself very well. The problem is not knowledge. The problem is confidence and structure.
Exactly. And today, we're going to talk about that. Not in a heavy academic way, not with complicated rules or long grammar explanations, but in a calm, human, real-life way. This is a friendly conversation. Imagine we're sitting with you, maybe with a cup of tea or coffee, and we're just talking.
Welcome to the podcast. If this is your first time here, I'm Laura.
And I'm James. And today's topic is simple but powerful. How to talk about yourself in English naturally and confidently, without feeling stuck, nervous, or fake.
And we want to say this clearly at the beginning. Talking about yourself is not about sounding perfect. It's not about using big words. It's not about impressing people. It's about connection. Pause.
Yes, when someone asks about you, they're usually not testing your English. They're trying to understand you as a person. But many learners don't feel that. Instead, they feel pressure. They feel like every sentence must be correct, and that pressure creates fear.
And fear makes your mind busy. Too busy. You start thinking, what should I say first? Is this the right tense? What if I make a mistake? And then, silence.
This is why this topic matters so much. If you can talk about yourself comfortably, many other conversations become easier. Introductions, small talk, work conversations, friendships, even dating.
Talking about yourself is often the first door in communication. If that door feels heavy, everything behind it feels difficult too.
Let's slow this down. First, let's talk about why this feels so hard for English learners.
One big reason is that many people learn English in pieces, vocabulary lists, grammar rules, test questions. But real conversations don't happen in pieces, they flow.
Right. And when someone asks, "Tell me about yourself," they're not asking for a perfect story. They're asking for a simple, human picture. But learners often think they need to say everything, their job, their past, their dreams, their whole life, all at once.
And that's overwhelming. So today we're going to change that mindset.
Here's something important to remember. Talking about yourself in English is not one long speech. It's small, flexible parts.
Yes, you don't need to say everything, you just need to say enough. Let's start with the most basic idea.
When you talk about yourself, you're usually answering one of three things: who you are now, what you do, or what you like.
That's it, not your entire life story.
And the order doesn't need to be perfect. The grammar doesn't need to be perfect. What matters is clarity and comfort.
Let's imagine a real situation. Someone says, "Hi, nice to meet you." Then they ask, "So, what about you?"
Many learners panic here because they don't know where to start. So here's a simple rule. Start small.
One sentence is enough. You can always add more later.
For example, you can start with where you are in life right now. You might talk about your work, your studies, or your daily routine.
And you don't need special words. Simple English is strong English.
This is something I want to say clearly. Fluent English is not fast English. Fluent English is comfortable English.
Yes, comfortable for you and comfortable for the listener.
Here's a quote I want you to remember. Confidence in speaking doesn't come from knowing more words. It comes from trusting the words you already have.
That's so true. Many learners already know enough English to talk about themselves. They just don't trust it.
Now, let's talk about structure, but in a very gentle way. Not grammar rules, just thinking patterns.
When you talk about yourself, think of it like opening a window, not a door. You let people see a little inside.
You might start with something like your name or where you're from, but even that is optional. What matters is answering the feeling behind the question.
When someone asks about you, they're really saying, "Help me know you."
So instead of thinking, how do I speak perfect English? Try thinking, what small thing about me can I share?
This mindset change is very powerful.
And it reduces fear because sharing one small thing feels safe.
In the next part, we're going to go deeper into this. We'll show you how to build what you say step by step in a way that feels natural, human, and realistic for real conversations.
But before we end this first part, I want to ask you something. The next time someone asks you about yourself, can you allow yourself to answer with just one calm sentence?
No pressure, no perfection. Just one honest sentence.
That's where confidence begins.
All right. When you're ready, tell us to continue, and we'll move into part 2, where we'll break this skill down even more and help you feel natural when you speak.
Welcome back. If you're listening to this in one go, take a breath with us. And if you're coming back later, welcome again. In the first part, we talked about fear, pressure, and why talking about yourself feels so heavy in English. We also talked about starting small and trusting simple sentences.
Now, in this part, we're going to slow everything down even more. This is the heart of today's lesson. We'll show you how to build what you say step by step in a way that feels natural, human, and realistic for real conversations.
And I want to say this clearly before we continue. You do not need to memorize scripts. You do not need to copy native speakers. You do not need to sound American or British or anything else.
You only need to sound like you in English.
Let's begin with a very common mistake learners make. They try to prepare the perfect answer in their head before speaking.
Yes, and while they're preparing, the conversation moves on.
Real conversation doesn't wait for perfection, it responds to presence. So instead of preparing everything, we're going to practice building answers as we speak.
Think of it like walking, not jumping, one step at a time.
Let's return to that common question. Tell me about yourself.
This question feels big, but it doesn't need a big answer. So here's a simple idea. You can answer it in layers.
Layer 1 is your current situation. What are you doing these days?
This could be work, study, or even something temporary in your life right now.
And here's the key. You don't need details at first, just direction.
When you give direction, the other person knows where you are in life.
For example, you might talk about your job, but only in a simple way. Or you might talk about learning English. Or you might talk about something that fills your days.
And once you say that first layer, something interesting happens. You relax a little.
Yes, because you've started. And starting is the hardest part.
Now comes layer 2, a small personal detail.
Not something private, not something deep, just something human.
This could be how long you've been doing something, or whether you like it, or why you started.
And this is where many learners stop themselves. They think, is this correct English?
But remember, communication is not a test. If the listener understands you, you're doing it right.
Let's talk about spoken flow. Real spoken English is not perfect sentences one after another.
It has pauses, small repeats, simple connectors like and, so, but.
And that's good news, because it means you don't have to sound polished.
You can sound real.
When you talk about yourself, allow yourself to pause. Pauses are not mistakes.
They're thinking space.
And thinking space shows confidence, not weakness.
Now let's talk about tone. Many learners speak very fast when they're nervous.
Slowing down helps your brain and your listener.
You don't need to rush to finish your sentence. You're allowed to take time.
Here's something very important. Most people listening to you want you to succeed.
They're not waiting for you to fail. They're listening for meaning, not mistakes.
Let's talk about another common struggle. Learners often feel they must continue talking until the answer feels complete.
But conversations are shared. You don't need to carry everything alone.
You can stop and let the other person respond.
And that response often helps you continue naturally.
So instead of thinking, I must say everything, try thinking, I'll say little and see what happens.
This mindset reduces pressure immediately.
Now let's gently talk about mistakes.
Because mistakes are part of speaking, not a problem, not a failure.
Many learners feel embarrassed when they make a small grammar mistake while talking about themselves.
But here's the truth. Native speakers make mistakes all the time.
And they don't stop speaking because of it.
Confidence doesn't mean zero mistakes. Confidence means continuing anyway.
If someone understands you, the conversation is successful.
And when you talk about yourself, meaning matters more than form.
Let's talk about emotional honesty. You don't need to sound exciting.
You don't need to impress.
You can be simple, you can be quiet, you can be calm.
Your English does not need a performance. It needs permission.
Permission to be imperfect, permission to be slow, permission to be real.
There's often a breakthrough moment for learners. It's when they realize they don't need approval to speak.
They just need courage to begin.
And that courage grows every time you try.
In the next part, we'll bring everything together. We'll show you how to use this skill in real life, how to practice without stress, and how to turn talking about yourself into a source of confidence instead of fear.
So take a moment. Notice how you're feeling right now.
If you feel a little calmer than before, that's progress.
When you're ready, tell us to continue, and we'll move into part 3, the final part of today's lesson.
Welcome to the final part. If you stayed with us until now, I want to say something honestly. That already tells me something about you. It tells me you care. You care about your English, yes, but more than that, you care about expressing yourself, and that matters.
Yes, it really does. In the first part, we talked about fear and pressure. In the second part, we talked about structure, flow, and giving yourself permission to speak. Now, in this final part, we're going to bring everything into real life. This is where confidence becomes action.
Let's talk about a moment that many learners remember very clearly. You finally speak. You finally say something about yourself in English. And afterward you think, that wasn't perfect, but it worked.
That moment changes something inside you because you realize perfection was never the goal, connection was.
This is the emotional breakthrough we want for you. The moment you stop asking, was my English good? And start asking, did they understand me?
Because understanding is success.
Let's imagine a real-life situation again. You meet someone new. They ask about you. Your heart still beats a little faster. That's normal.
Confidence doesn't mean no fear. It means fear doesn't stop you anymore.
So you start with one simple sentence. Not because it's perfect, but because it's true.
And once you start, something interesting happens. Your body relaxes. Your voice becomes more natural.
Your English starts to sound more like spoken English, not textbook English.
This is what many learners don't realize. Fluency grows during speaking, not before it.
Now let's talk about real-life application. How can you practice talking about yourself without stress?
The first way is very simple. Talk to real people whenever possible.
But not with big goals. Not with pressure to be impressive.
just with the goal of being understood.
You can practice at work, at school, in short conversations.
Even small moments count. A short answer is still an answer.
The second way to practice is alone. And this is important for learners who feel shy.
You can speak out loud to yourself, not silently in your head, out loud.
When you hear your own voice in English, something shifts. English becomes a sound, not just a thought.
You don't need a mirror, you don't need a script.
Just choose one small question. What am I doing these days?
And answer it calmly, as if someone is listening kindly.
The third way is repetition without boredom.
This is very important. Repetition doesn't mean repeating the same sentence perfectly.
It means repeating the same idea in slightly different ways over time.
Each time you talk about yourself, it becomes easier, not because you memorized it.
But because your brain recognizes the situation.
Familiar situations create confidence.
Let's address one more common learner fear. What if I freeze again?
Freezing doesn't mean failure. It means you're learning.
And if it happens, you can do something very powerful. You can pause.
Pauses are allowed. Silence is allowed.
You can even say something simple to give yourself time.
That's not weakness. That's communication.
Now let's talk about identity. Many learners feel like they are less themselves in English.
They feel quieter, smaller, less interesting.
That feeling is real, but it's temporary.
Your personality is not missing. It's waiting for language to catch up.
And language catches up through use, not perfection.
The more you talk about yourself, the more your real voice appears.
One day, you'll notice something surprising. You'll start choosing words naturally.
You'll start adding small details without thinking too much.
And you'll realize you're not translating anymore. You're expressing.
That's a big moment.
I want to share one final thought with you. This is something many confident speakers understand deeply.
You don't need to earn the right to speak English.
You already have it.
Your accent is not a problem. Your pauses are not a problem.
Your mistakes are not a problem.
They are signs that you're using the language.
And using the language is how you grow.
So here's your gentle challenge. Not a hard one, a human one.
The next time someone asks about you, don't try to be perfect.
Just be present.
Say one honest sentence.
Then let the conversation breathe.
And notice how that feels.
Because confidence doesn't arrive suddenly. It builds quietly, moment by moment.
Thank you for spending this time with us.
And remember, your story matters, even in simple English.